What if the most important lesson old money teaches its kids has nothing to do with investing and everything to do with how they treat the waiter? In the quiet world of generational wealth, where fortunes are measured in centuries, a different kind of education takes place. It's a curriculum you won't find at any Ivy League school, and its core subject isn't finance, but something far more valuable: respect. We're often told that politeness is just about being nice, but for the families who've kept their influence for generations, that's a huge misunderstanding. For them, respect isn't a soft skill, it's the most durable currency they have. It's a strategic tool, a form of social armor, and the invisible blueprint that holds a dynasty together. While new money often shouts, with louder parties, flashier cars, and bigger logos, old money whispers. Its power is in its quiet, calculated discretion, and the foundation of that discretion is a deeply ingrained code of respect for everyone. This is your look behind the velvet curtain. We're going to decode the etiquette, the unspoken values, and the rigorous discipline that old money families use to pass this code down to their children. And let's be clear, this isn't about being polite for politeness' sake. This is about power. It's about survival. It's about how dynasties are built not just on what you own, but on how you behave. Because in their world, how a child learns to speak to the staff is a better predictor of the family's future than any stock portfolio. And before we get into the unspoken rules that separate generational wealth from a fleeting fortune, make sure you subscribe. We're all about exploring the habits and codes of the world's most enduring families. Join our community of people who believe that true class is built on character, not just cash. Imagine two scenes. First, a young heir gets annoyed by slow service at a restaurant and makes a scene. He's loud, demanding, and makes sure everyone knows who he is. In the moment, he gets what he wants: faster service and a flurry of apologies. But he leaves behind a room full of people who now associate his family's name with arrogance, not aspiration. The staff will remember his entitlement, and other guests will remember his lack of class. He spent a massive amount of social capital just to get a steak 5 minutes faster. Now, imagine the same scene with a different heir. He quietly and politely gets the waiter's attention. He's gracious, understanding, and treats the staff like people, not servants. His meal doesn't arrive any faster, but he leaves behind a staff that's grateful for his kindness and other patrons who are impressed by his poise. He turned a minor annoyance into a moment that revealed his character. One of these heirs is playing the short game of new money. The other is playing the long game of old money. And in that world, the long game is the only one that matters. Today, we're breaking down the 6 pillars of the old money philosophy of respect, the principles that turn children into the guardians of a legacy. Section 1. The first pillar: respect as social capital, the architecture of alliances. For old money families, a social network isn't something you build on an app. It's a living ecosystem you have to nurture for a lifetime. The soil of that ecosystem? Universal respect. They teach their children a fundamental truth. Every single person, from the doorman to the diplomat, is a potential ally or a potential liability, and your behavior decides which one they become. This is the first pillar. Respect isn't just for those who can help you, it's for everyone, because you never know who's watching, who's listening, or who holds the key to a door you haven't even found yet. This philosophy is drilled into kids through small, consistent habits of courtesy that become second nature. Saying, "After you, please tell me more," or a simple, genuine "thank you" aren't just pleasantries, they're strategic moves. When an old money child holds a door open, they aren't just being polite, they're making a deposit in the bank of social capital. They're taught that money might get you in the room, but it's your character that lets you stay there and have real influence. Think about the psychology here. When you treat someone with genuine respect, no matter their job title, you communicate that you're secure. Your self-worth isn't tied to bossing people around. This projects a quiet confidence that's way more magnetic than showing off. People are naturally drawn to those who make them feel seen and valued. An old money heir knows that the loyalty of a long-serving staff member or the goodwill of a local business owner is often more resilient and valuable than any purely transactional relationship. Contrast that with the new money approach, which often bases respect on perceived status. Someone might be charming to a potential business partner, but completely dismissive of the catering staff. That kind of behavior, which comes from insecurity, builds a fragile social network. It screams that respect is just a tool for manipulation, not a core value. Old money knows the world is smaller than it looks. The waiter you mistreat today could be the gatekeeper to an opportunity tomorrow. By teaching their children to treat every interaction as a chance to build a bridge, not a wall, they build a huge, nearly invisible network of goodwill that pays off for generations. They aren't just teaching manners, they're teaching the architecture of influence. Section 2. The second pillar. Respect as a defensive strategy. The armor of understatement. The second pillar of the old money philosophy is probably the most confusing one in our culture of self-promotion. It's the idea that respect, especially when shown through discretion and understatement, is a powerful defense. In a world where attention is a currency, old money teaches its children that attention is also a liability. It attracts envy, opportunism, and unnecessary risk. The goal isn't to be the most noticed person in the room, but the most respected. From a young age, kids are taught that boasting is the ultimate sin. Talking about money, showing off new purchases, or broadcasting achievements is seen as tacky and, more importantly, strategically dumb. Why? Because showing off makes you a target. When you advertise your wealth, you attract people who are interested in what you have, not who you are. It becomes impossible to know who your true friends are. So a key part of their education is mastering the art of strategic invisibility. This is the armor of understatement. They're taught to wear timeless, high-quality clothes that don't scream their brand or price. They learn to talk about their experiences, travel, education, hobbies, by sharing the substance without signaling the expense. A child might talk about a summer spent learning to sail, focusing on the teamwork and challenge, not the yacht or the exclusive club. The focus is always on personal growth, not the price tag. This idea extends to disagreements. An heir trained in the old money tradition would never publicly correct or humiliate someone even if they're wrong. That would just draw attention and create an enemy. Instead, they learn to steer conversations gracefully and let others save face. This isn't weakness, it's control. It's a deep respect for social harmony, knowing that winning a tiny argument can mean losing a much bigger war. It protects their social capital and reinforces their reputation for poise, a trait that is its own form of power. The new money approach, by contrast, often treats life like a performance. Wealth is proven through lavish spending and social media posts. While this might get you some short-term admiration, it's a terrible long-term strategy. It breeds entitlement in the children and resentment in others. Old money understands that real power is the freedom to operate without constant scrutiny. By teaching their children the discipline of understatement, they are giving them a suit of armor that lets them move through the world with security and the quiet confidence of people with nothing to prove. Section 3. The third pillar. The ritual of gratitude. The power of the handwritten note. If one single practice captures the old money approach to respect, it's the disciplined, almost sacred ritual of the handwritten note. It might seem old-fashioned, but in the world of generational wealth, it's a high-yield investment in relationships. This is the third pillar. Gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's an action, and its most powerful form is one that takes time and effort. From the moment they can hold a crayon, children in these families are taught that a verbal thank you isn't enough. After getting a gift, attending a dinner, or being helped in any significant way, a thank you note is a duty. And the rules are specific. The note has to be written by hand on proper stationery. It has to be sent quickly, usually within 48 hours, and most importantly, it has to be specific. A generic "thank you for the gift" won't cut it. The child is taught to mention the specific gift or kindness and say why it was meaningful. For instance, "Thank you so much for the book on ancient Rome. I've already started the chapter on the Punic Wars and it's fascinating. It was so thoughtful of you to remember my interest in history." So why does this simple act carry so much weight? In our digital world, a handwritten note is an event. It cuts through the noise. It signals that the sender took time out of their day to focus only on the recipient, which conveys a profound level of respect. It tells the recipient they are valued as a person. Thomas C. Corley, who spent years studying the habits of the wealthy, found that simple acts like this are a key way they build the relationships crucial for success. This ritual does more than just build goodwill. It shapes the child's character. It forces them to pause and reflect on kindness. It fights the entitlement that can easily grow in an environment of privilege. It teaches them they're part of a web of relationships where every act of generosity deserves a thoughtful acknowledgement. And according to psychological research, building a habit of gratitude is linked to greater happiness and resilience. Now contrast that with the modern norm, a quick text, "Thanks for the gift." It's efficient, sure, but it's also impersonal and instantly forgettable. It checks a box, but does nothing to strengthen a bond. By insisting on the more effortful analog method, old money families are making a strategic choice. They're teaching their kids that relationships aren't built on efficiency, but on meaningful connection. A text gets deleted, but a beautiful, heartfelt note is often saved, becoming a physical reminder of the sender's character and grace. The fourth pillar of old money respect is built on a paradox. To be worthy of great wealth, you have to learn what it's like to live without it. These families know that the biggest threat to a fortune is an heir who has never known struggle. So they intentionally design an upbringing that introduces discipline, humility, and a respect for work. This isn't about preparing them for a life of labor, but about forging a character that can handle the pressures of privilege. It starts early with chores and earned rewards. An old money child's life is often highly structured. They have duties to reinforce that they are part of a family where everyone contributes. Allowance isn't a handout, it's payment for tasks completed. John D. Rockefeller, founder of one of America's great fortunes, famously had his children keep detailed ledgers to teach them the value of money from a young age. A common practice is splitting any earned money into 3 jars: save, spend, and give. This simple exercise instills the core ideas of financial stewardship from childhood. There's also a strong emphasis on pursuing activities that demand patience and discipline over those that offer instant fame. You're more likely to find an old money heir on a rowing team, in a martial arts dojo, or mastering a classical instrument than trying to get famous on social media. These pursuits teach invaluable lessons: the agony of practice, the humility of defeat, and the quiet satisfaction of slow improvement. They are taught to find their identity in their own skills, not in their family's bank account. This builds an internal compass that isn't dependent on outside validation. This is a huge contrast to a common new money pitfall. Parents, often wanting to give their kids what they never had, remove all obstacles. They overcompensate with material things and shield their children from failure. This well-intentioned approach can be devastating, creating adults who lack resilience, feel entitled, and are totally unprepared to manage wealth. They've been given a life that feels like a performance, but they lack the character to hold it together. Old money respects the process. They respect the lessons learned through effort and even failure. They understand that you can only truly respect wealth if you understand the work it takes to create and maintain it. By giving their children real responsibilities, they're training them to see wealth not as a personal piggy bank, but as a legacy to protect. Section 5. The fifth pillar, the sanctuary of the dinner table. Cultivating poise and intellect. In an old money household, the dinner table is not just for eating, it's a classroom and a training ground. It's where the fifth pillar of respect is built, respect for ideas and civilized conversation. The rules here aren't just about which fork to use, they're a sophisticated system for shaping a child's mind and preparing them to command respect in any room. From a young age, kids are expected to participate in dinner conversation, and the topics are carefully chosen. Gossip, complaining, talking about money, or recapping TV shows are off limits. Instead, the conversation is guided toward ideas, arts, history, and current events, discussed thoughtfully, not argumentatively. A parent might ask a child's opinion on a book, discuss a recent museum exhibit, or debate a historical event. The goal is to build a mind that is curious and comfortable with intellectual topics. This practice serves several purposes. First, it teaches children how to articulate their thoughts and listen respectfully to others. They learn that conversation is a collaboration, not a competition. This develops a poise and confidence that allows them to connect with people from all walks of life. They learn to be interesting by being interested. Second, it builds a foundation of cultural capital that is often more valuable than money in elite circles. Being able to speak thoughtfully about art, literature, or history is a powerful social signal. It shows an education that goes beyond the classroom and signals a mind that is engaged with the world. This is what allows them to belong in the slow rooms of power, where deals are made not through blunt negotiation, but through the slow building of trust and rapport. Third, what's not said is just as important. By forbidding gossip, the family reinforces the value of discretion. By banning talk of money, they reinforce that a person's worth comes from their character and intellect, not their bank balance. The new money dinner table, as often portrayed, can be very different. The conversation might revolve around recent purchases or the cost of a vacation. It often comes from a place of pride, but it teaches children to measure life in material terms. They learn to talk at people, not with them. The old money dinner table is a long-term investment in a child's social and intellectual future, designed to produce an adult who doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room because they have the quiet authority of a well-furnished mind. Section 6. The sixth pillar. Stewardship over stardom, the philosophy of generational thinking. The final pillar of the old money code is the most profound, instilling a generational mindset. This is the understanding that one lifetime is just a single chapter in a much longer family story. Children are taught to respect the past, serve the present, and above all, preserve the future. This philosophy is perfectly captured in the principle of stewardship over stardom. In an old money family, wealth isn't seen as personal property to be spent. It is a legacy to be stewarded. The family fortune, the businesses, the estates, they are all framed as a sacred trust. The child is taught that they are a temporary custodian with a solemn duty to pass this inheritance on, hopefully in better shape than they found it. This completely reframes their relationship with money and privilege. This lesson is taught through rituals and consistent messaging. A child might be shown a ledger detailing every ancestor who contributed to the family trust, emphasizing the generations of effort that came before them. Philanthropy isn't presented as a tax write-off or a PR move, but as a family duty to shape the world according to their values. The family's history, full of stories of triumph and hardship, is passed down to provide a sense of continuity. This concept of stewardship creates a deep-seated respect for the capital itself. The mantra is capital first, cash second. Children learn that the goal isn't to have a high income to spend, but to preserve and grow the underlying assets. Frivolous spending is therefore seen not just as wasteful, but as a betrayal of trust, a sign of disrespect to the ancestors who built the fortune and the descendants who are counting on it. This is why you see old money families prioritizing spending on things that appreciate in value, education, experiences, art, over things that depreciate, like flashy cars or trendy fashion. They are playing a multi-generational game. The new money world often operates on a much shorter timeline. Having created the wealth themselves, the focus is often on the immediate rewards, the luxury lifestyle, the public recognition, the stardom. This short-term view is a key reason why an estimated 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation and 90% by the third. Old money's obsession with stewardship is a survival strategy. By teaching their children to respect the legacy they inherit, they are vaccinating them against the entitlement and short-sightedness that destroys fortunes. It's clear that the old money approach to respect is so much more than quaint manners. It's a sophisticated, multi-generational strategy for preserving power, influence, and wealth. It's a system built on the idea that true strength lies not in dominance, but in discretion, not in opulence, but in character. From the universal courtesy that builds social capital to the armor of understatement that defends against risk, from the power of a handwritten note to the dignity of work, from the intellectual training at the dinner table to the sacred duty of stewardship, these 6 pillars form a complete philosophy for a life of consequence. But the most powerful lesson here is that these principles aren't just for the wealthy. They're available to anyone. Choosing to practice universal respect, discretion, and genuine gratitude, choosing to value character over consumption and to think in longer timelines, these are choices we can all make. They are the building blocks of a rich life, no matter the size of your bank account. True wealth, as old money has known for centuries, is quiet, confident, and grounded in how you move through the world. It's about building a legacy of character, not a spectacle of cash. If you found this valuable, please share it with someone who'd appreciate it. And let us know in the comments, which of these old money principles of respect do you think is most powerful in today's world? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.